back to the channel. Wanted to put together a video to, I guess, answer some questions that I get at times. So I've got friends that have asked this question, and I also have people that have approached me at the range and asked me this question. They come up and they ask, if you were starting out, like you wanted to, I've had the question a couple different ways. One, I've had the question asked to me, if your son is starting out and wanting to get into marksmanship and also possibly hunting, what rifle would you buy? And then I've had people ask me at the range, kind of a similar question, but like, what do you think is like a good rifle? If I wanted to not necessarily buy once, cry once, but if I didn't want to go like really low end, but what's like a mid tier that you would recommend? Well, so in my experience, I've been collecting guns and shooting my entire life. I don't have the background in hunting to answer a lot of questions about hunting other than like videos that I've seen about it. But shooting rifles, yes. I answered the question kind of with the direction I went. So for my son, who has just gotten into hunting, I thought about, either the options I was looking at the time was a 243 or a 7mm 08. I decided to go the 243 for him. Everybody that I've talked to, said 243 is great for deer. It's very accurate. It's going to have the minimal recoil for a kid to handle. It's an all-around great caliper. You can use it for anything, varmints, coyotes, anything you want, up to like deer size game. So I went that route for him. I'm a huge fan of Bergara, so I bought him a Bergara Stoke. It's kind of a shorter length of pull, lighter rifle I would consider it more of a youth rifle. So I set that up for him, and he's taken 3 deer with it. No issues, no problem. So yeah, I love it. I would say, I would answer the question, if somebody's looking for a rifle for their kid to start out with. Yeah, I think 243 is going to be a great option. I have a 7mm 08 as well. I think that's probably also a great option, that you can do a lot of different things with. But when you have people that, like my uncle and cousin, my uncle, both of them been hunting their whole lives, and when my cousin was coming up, when he was 10 years old, then my uncle put him on a 30-06, so it's just kind of whatever your preference is. But I like to go the route of having a lower recoil when I'm starting a kid off. I started my son off, of course, with 22 LR, and he's been shooting that for a while. But when I wanted to bump him up to a center fire, I wanted really as little recoil as I could get out of it, just because I didn't want him to become afraid of the gun or develop a flinch and those type scenarios. So that's what I was mainly interested in, and I knew 243 would get the job done. There's no telling how many thousands and thousands and thousands of deer have been taken with a 243. So, I think it's a great cartridge. So that's what we went with to answer that question. When it comes to people asking me, about rifle brands, I haven't owned every brand out there. I'm a big fan. I probably have more Bergaras than anything, but I'm a big fan of Bergara. I'm a big fan of Tikka. I recently purchased a Seekins PH3. I like that rifle. I've owned and still have some Brownings. I have an old Winchester. I have, I have different ones in AR platforms and things as well. But when we're talking about more just like kind of marksman hunting rifles, was trying to think. I've had plenty of Savage rifles. I've had a couple different Ruger rifles. I'm not, for me, and this is all just my opinion, personal preference, I'm not a huge fan of Savage or Ruger. Here's why. I've purchased some Savage rifles before, and one of the first things I do when I buy a rifle, I take the action screws out and pull it out of the stock and just check everything, and usually like kind of just clean it a little bit where it came from the factory. It might have like oil, grit, grease, whatever, metal shavings, all that type stuff. So I usually try to separate it and clean everything. Then I also like to make sure that all the screws are torqued to spec. So that's just one of the things I do as soon as I get a new rifle. When I've purchased Savage rifles before, I've had them straight from the factory. As soon as I got them out of the box, when I take them apart, I've seen like rust pitting on the inside when I've taken them out, like on the outside of the barrel, where in between the actual stock and the barrel, I found rust on blued rifles. I've had some other issues with them, but I've never really had one that's had a smooth action either. I've had extraction issues. Like even, let's say, not even centerfire, let's go to 22 LR. Everybody was raving about the Savage MK2s. I bought one of those. Opened it up, like I said, had rust on the barrel, had rust inside the barrel. The magazine to it was very, it felt like just four little pieces of sheet metal kind of stuck together, and I wasn't a fan of the magazine. It felt like I could squeeze it and break it. And then I ran into like feeding and extraction issues with it. So I didn't like the rifle. So I sold that one. I also bought a Savage, what's it called? A B22 Precision. I was going to kind of dip my toes into competition with that one and try starting out. And I bought that and a Ruger Precision at the same time. I kept the Ruger Precision and I sold the Savage. The Savage, what I didn't like about it, it shot well, but the feeding issues is what I had a problem with, and I think it was mainly related to the magazines they use. So they use, what do you call them? It's like the carousel inside, like magazines, kind of like Ruger does, but it's a little bit different. And what I had the issue with is where the bolt, when you were loading a bullet in, when you were chambering around, the bolt would run over the next bullet in line and it would kind of scrape the head of it. And I thought maybe it was just something going on with that particular rifle, but I found forums where that's a big thing, and I saw some other YouTube videos of people having that same issue. So there were some things I liked about the rifle and things I didn't. So I sold that one, and then I just kept the Ruger. The Ruger Precision 22, I really love it, and that's what my son, he just started shooting bench rest competition with me this year. That's what he's using now. So no issues really with that. I mean, it's not a $2,000 or $3,000 rifle, I mean, it's, I think, $500. So you get what you pay for. If you think about it along those lines, I just think it's a great starter rifle, for kids and things. And even people starting out, like I would start out probably and do like NRL 22 or something with one if I didn't want to spend a lot of money. I think it's a great, like, just starter rifle. But anyway, brand wise with rifles, like I said, I'm a big fan. I have mainly Bergara rifles. Really love them. I've never had any big issues with Bergara that weren't easily fixed. Now, let me say, on the Bergaras I've had, I have had and still do have some issues with the triggers. So I'm kind of prone to replacing the trigger on them. When I say that, I've had two different Bergaras that I bought where the actual screw on the trigger to reduce it, to lighten it, has been loose. And like, I mean, you can wiggle it. So I could probably, put, in which on one of them I put some blue thread locker on it, and I tightened it up myself that way, but it shouldn't really come that way from the factory, and that's, that is an issue. So the other rifle, I just replaced the trigger. But when you start getting into Timney triggers and all that, you're for a hunting trigger, was it about 150 bucks? Then you can go up to a lot more money, if you want like competition triggers and stuff like that. So that's an issue that I've had with Bergara. But other than that, I really haven't had any other issues. All my Bergaras are very accurate. The actions are very smooth. Um, I can't say enough good things about them. Same with my Tikkas. Tikkas are great rifles. I think the action's even smoother in a Tikka. They're like butter. My complaint about the Tikkas, and we'll go back and forth a little bit here, but the Tikkas, I'm not a fan. I love their barreled action, let's say that. But their stocks, like their synthetic stocks, I'm not as much a fan of. Now, I don't have one yet. I'm looking at getting one, but they have the Hunter series rifle, the T3 Hunter, the wooden stock. I think that would be probably a lot better. And I'm looking to get one of those as well because I actually like wooden stocks for a certain reason. I kind of like those, the inheritance rifles, we'll call them. I like to put those back in my collection and pass down. Some of the synthetics, the synthetics will last forever, and you can pass those down the same way. But I just kind of like, I guess, the traditional like wood stocks as far as that goes, and holding on to those rifles. So I don't have one yet, but I have looked at them and held them, and I think those stocks are a lot better. It's just when you go their T3X light, then the synthetic stock to it is just, I don't know, it doesn't feel good to me. It feels cheap. It's kind of, you can flex it. I can push the barrel against the stock itself. So I'm just not really a fan of that. And, you can't, at the price points and stuff, you can't get everything you want. They have to cut corners somewhere. I understand that. It's business. When they do their higher end rifles, or you do, Sako or whatever it is, Sako, then I guess that's their higher end, and which I don't own any of those, but maybe one day. I'm sure, at that price point, things will change, and that's probably like better stocks and stuff. So, anyway, as far as the Tikka, the action, and the barrel, love them. No complaints whatsoever. Decent trigger in them for the ones that I have and the ones I've messed with. Even like, so when you want to spend more money, you can go on stuff like Seekins. Well, I have a Seekins PH3 now and 6.5 Creedmoor. I love it so far, but I've only got 20 rounds through the gun. I plan on hopefully going sometime this next week out to the range and doing some load development with that one. So I'll do another video later and let you know my thoughts on it, as we kind of go along and as I have more time behind the rifle or with the rifle. But I like the feel of the stock to it. Everything feels nice to it. I think it's great, but then your price point, depending on which models you go with, you're almost double what the Tikka's going to be. Not quite, but let's say a lot of the Tikkas are around that $1,000, $1,100, $1,200 price point. Then you look at the Seekins, and that's $1,800. So, I think it was $1,899 actually. So, you're getting close to that $2,000 mark with Seekins. Then you have other rifle brands. You've got Howa, which I think is great. CVA, which is basically Bergara, but I guess it's their lower end. I don't really see that. I have a CVA. I'm looking at another one. I think CVAs are a great rifle option too, money-wise. So, something to definitely consider. Yeah, like I said, going back to Browning, the thing that I discourage people with Browning would be, I think out of the box they're a great rifle. I like their actions. I don't like them as much as Tikka and Bergara, but I think they're great rifles. I guess my thing would be I would look at Browning if I'm just buying a rifle and never plan on changing anything. It's kind of more of a, I guess, a proprietary type system, and a lot of third party companies don't really make parts for them or stocks or replacements. It's not as big in the market, I guess, as when you look at Bergara, then you're looking at the old Remington 700 base, I guess, and like every company makes parts for it and barrels and everything you could think of. Tikka's not the same, but a lot of third party things are making stuff for Tikka, so you can find all kind of stuff for that as well. Howa's about the same. That's easy to find stuff for. So it just depends. I mean, Browning's a really good rifle, but if you get that, I wouldn't look at it like I'm going to be changing out a lot of stuff on it. I just kind of buy it as is, and the expectation would be that's what I've got. And that's, like I said, these are just my opinions. Um, and you can look at other high-end rifles, or you can, the sky's the limit. You can spend all the money you want. You can get the cheap stuff. Some people love Savage. I know a guy at my work, he has many Savage rifles and loves them, and that's primarily what he has and what he shoots. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's whatever you like. I just haven't had a lot of luck with Savage over the past several years. He said, Savage at one point was better quality, which it might have been. I think that probably holds true for a lot of rifle companies. As we progress on, they always try to, almost make a cheaper product and be able to, it's all about how much money they can make on it, but they're trying to lower the cost to build and make one, and then, make the same amount of money, or if not more. So, a lot of companies cut corners and things. But anyway, just kind of a video on my thought on some of them. There's some like tier list with rifles that a couple other channels have put together. But if I had to pick for me, the rifles that I go out and I trust and that I'm buying, if I could only buy one rifle, if I had to pick one hunting rifle, and let's exclude caliber, let's just say I had to pick one brand that I'm going to pick up a rifle, I got to pick one brand. I'm probably going to go, I know this will be controversial, but I'm probably going to go Bergara first because I like their stock and I like their barrel action. And then next would be Tikka. I think Tikka, the barrel and action's better than the Bergara slightly, but like I said, I just don't like their stock as much. So, but you can change all that, you can do different things, but I'm just taking this stance as far as my opinion on if I had to pick one. I stay away, like I said, from Savage and Rugers. I've owned, now I hadn't tried the Ruger American Gen 2, but I have had two different Ruger American rifles. Like one was just a regular Ruger American and one was a Predator model. I think I had the Predator model in a 204. Both of them, I don't know if maybe I got bad rifles from the start, but both of them had very clunky actions to them. They weren't smooth at all. Like, I don't know. I didn't really like those rifles, so I got rid of them. But then you go back to, there are like really good Rugers that I've had. And I've heard good things about the Ruger Hawkeye, so there's, other lines of Ruger that I'm sure are great. I want to look at some of those again as well. My dad had a couple of them, but most of my dad's rifles, before he passed away, when he was in the hospital, there was a theft and most of his guns were stolen. So a lot of those aren't, in the collection anymore. I basically lost all those since, a lot of them I was hoping to inherit one day myself, but they're all gone. So that didn't happen. But anyway, yeah, I guess that's about it. I was just thinking, my tier list and what my thoughts are and opinion. And, I would love to hear yours as well. So let me know, like, what's your, I guess, go-to brand? Like, maybe what's the brand that you have the most rifles of. I mean, mine's Bergara, so or if you could only pick one brand, one rifle, and that's what you had to go get, excluding caliber, then what brand would that be? Um, I like those rifles, like I said, Bergara Tikka. Um, and that's excluding if you wanted to go like the real high end stuff or even like Barrett rifles and all those type things. Um, like I said, again, just my thoughts. But hope you enjoyed, and I hope you keep following along. Thanks for watching.